Anybody needs some lubrication, you can see me after the service. I'll provide you some. Keeps my innards lubricated. Well, how is it to be in God's house again on the Sabbath? There's no place I could think of I'd rather be this morning. He's one thing I'll get out of bed for. I am glad to be here. We're talking about treadmills and walking today. Things that we don't like to hear. Something I've got to be thinking of myself. Doctor says, son, you need to lose some weight. He said, you got to get in shape. I said, but round is a shape. Leave me alone. We're looking at Ephesians. We want to talk about how we walk. And I love that last song. I've loved it since we were talking just a while ago. How long I've known some of these folks from the Seventh-day Baptist. Might as well say I grew up with it. And I was thinking a while ago, I was 16, I think, and now I'm 61. Kind of makes you feel dyslexic, don't it? and I heard a while ago, but I do have to thank you. I'm glad to see my fans came in today. I'm just in one of those moods today. It's a beautiful day. I'm glad to be here. You know, it's just sometimes you just got to let it out or before it escapes. Ephesians 5. How do we walk? They know we're Christians by our love. They know that how we treat each other, how we look toward the world, the all-encompassing justice of love. It's not the everyday thing that I love my truck, I love my car, I love my thing, but it's an all-encompassing love for each other. A love that we carry for each other, a love in righteousness, a love in justice, a love that we want the best for others. I mean, if I've just bought a used Chevette, and I know some of you remember I had a Chevette, so I'm talking about one I know. And that's when I told everybody I had a vet, so it was really cool. But I had a Chevette. Now, me driving this little Chevette, and if my neighbor buys a Cadillac, brand new, how should I feel? Well, should I envy it? My justice would say, how come he gets it, I don't? What if I'm up for a promotion? What if I've been waiting a year and a half for a promotion that I was promised, and I'm watching folks come from behind me that came in after me get promoted to that spot and move up in front of me? And the ones I was there with are already on top spots. How am I supposed to feel? Brings it home, don't it? God says we're supposed to rejoice with those who are rejoicing. We're supposed to mourn with those who are mourning. We're supposed to lift up and be happy for and celebrate their success. What if there are enemies? God says pray for them. God says bless them. Bless your enemies. You know, we can all bless each other by loving each other, but how do we reach and bless our enemies? How do we reach those that give that promotion to someone else? Sometimes when we ask God for things to help us love others, to help us see others through His eyes, it's not a magical thing He does inside of us. He puts us in situations where we have to learn it. Sometimes we want to know how to deal with people. God, take this off my hands. You know, I want to love them as you love them. Put that in me and take this situation away. No, I'm going to give you that situation and I'm going to help you through it, because on the other side of it, you're going to see you're getting exactly what you asked for. Ephesians 5, we'll go ahead and start with 5. Therefore be imitators of God as dear children. Walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given Himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma. But fornication, uncleanness, covetousness, let it not even be named among you, as is fitting for the saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather giving of thanks. For this you know, that no fornicator, unclean person, covetous man, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not be partakers with them. Walking in the love, walking in the path. And we're talking about how do you get on a treadmill, and you got to start somewhere. I've never jumped on a treadmill and started at full speed. I just wouldn't try that. I had one of my youngins put a cat on one time and start it, and I seen kind of that didn't work. You start out gradually. I can't jump into the fullness of God's love until I grow in God's love. And it is a growth process, and it don't always feel good. It's not always a warm fuzzy growing in God. But growing in God stretches you. It takes you out of a comfort zone. It puts you in situations that you don't want to be in sometimes, because that's where you're going to grow. I don't want to be where I've been promised a year and a half's promotion and watching everybody else that come after me, not even qualified for it, get it, and I'm looked over. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And God may be saying, hang in there. I'm teaching you something. And it takes a while to learn that. It's not an easy feeling. It's not an easy feeling to see your neighbor get something bigger and grander that you'd love to have. I'm sorry, I can't afford a $70,000 Cadillac. So maybe if I'm happy for him, he'll let me ride in it, I don't know. But I watched my uncle, who worked hard, but I didn't realize this at the time. He'd come riding in a Jag XKE that he just bought. Wanted one all his life, beautiful red. And he took me for a ride. I sat in the back seat, which there was none. But I was little at the time. And I thought, man, look at this car. And I was upset because my family couldn't afford it. Why can't we get one of these? These would be so cool. I could drive it to school, and all this good stuff. But no, we have this Chevrolet. We have this, my Toyota truck is just about falling apart now. For anybody that didn't know, I had a 74 Toyota truck with a bucket seats and no power steering. And I'm watching my uncle drive in an XKE Jag. Okay, you get the picture now? Well, I had watched him as I got older come home from World War II. I had understood how he had walked to work every day for many years in Bristol because he lived there. Bought a house on veterans pay. Walked to work, did not have a vehicle. Finally was able to start his own business. And many, many years later, he drove in a Jag. What did I learn from that as I got older? That God puts you in situations sometimes that he don't instantly answer, but because he don't instantly answer, there's no reason for us to be upset. That reason being, because of that, is that sooner or later we grow. And he talks of us drinking of his milk and eating of his meat, but in all of us that have dealt with kids know that they don't drink the milk when they're babies themselves. And we know that they don't always get their milk when they need it. And they know that the reason being is we're to watch out for them, take care of them, and love them. We feed them when we know they need it. We feed it so they don't get sick. We watch over them and keep them from being there. And when he says that we're born again as babies that need the milk, born again don't mean we walk into the freshness and newness of all life that we understood. Things don't necessarily go away when we're first born again. Some things that in our lives are so ingrained in our lives that we have to walk through some situations that God teaches us on, grows us on, and as we grow into it, we realize these things aren't needed. This thing isn't needed. It's as saying as the guy that came to you and said, you know, I would come to the Lord, but I have to change too much. You know, I'd have to lay down stuff I like. No, you don't. I can guarantee you, if you want to come to the Lord and lay down your heart to Him and take faith in Him, you don't have to give up a thing. But there's going to be things that you will give up, and you want to by the time you know Him. That's where your life changes in Him. And walking in love comes from Him. We have to rely on His Word and what He tells us when it comes to walking in love. It's His Word that stands above everything else. So when I start out on that treadmill, I'm not starting out fast. I've got to start out slow, work my way up to it. And heaven knows I'm using something that I hate to prove something that God loves. I don't like treadmills. It makes me think of my life sometimes. I'm doing nothing but walking and getting nowhere. You know, I push against a rock. God says, push against it, push against it. And I push against it, and it never moving. It never moves. And I'm like, Lord, how much longer am I going to push against it and move it? He said, I didn't ask you to move it. I asked you to push against it. Now look at your muscles from when you started. Growth's not an easy thing in the Lord. It's not an easy thing, but it teaches us that we need to walk. Standing still don't always get it. Waiting for it to come down on us don't always get it. It can. God can do what He wants, how He wants. I know that no way would I discredit Him, and He's done some things instantly in my life. But some of the things that I really wanted was not instant. I wanted to be where I understood Him better. I wanted to be that when I stood before people, as you all, that I was able to bring life's message. I felt my calling was to bring His Word into our lives as kingdom living now as well as later. So we could walk in His Word. But I didn't have it quite right because I didn't understand His Word. Even though I could read it, explain it, the understanding of His Word came as I grew. And I said, oh yeah, now I get it. This is why I bless others. And I love it when He said bless others. It's like pouring heaps of coal on their head. And I love to pour coal on people's head. I have got to where I like to bless people and leave them wordless. I do, because it's just one of those God moments to where I never thought of that. And He's done me that way. And I love to do others that way. As He says, be imitators of God. Well, He gave His life for everyone. He gave His life on the cross when they were spitting on Him, when they put Him there, when they scourged Him. He was beaten beyond recognition, hanging on the cross, and He gave His life for all of those, blessing them with a blessing that none of us can ever give, of eternal life in Him and a walk in Him of love and understanding the world. He gave us that from a cross from people that hated Him. And until you walk that walk, until you understand that walk, until you live in Him, you'll never understand why. Until you understand walking in His love. Walking in Him. He tells us, offering and a sacrifice, for it's a sweet smelling aroma. And I've learned it just seems like I'm going to tell you this, you can't outbless God. You will never outbless Him. The more you bless people, the more you find that you're blessed. I'm not talking prosperity. I'm not talking that kind of gospel. I'm talking blessed in your life. Blessed in who you are in Him. For when we go to heaven, when we're called to heaven and we meet Jesus, are we wanting to wait on our paycheck? Are we wanting for Him to tear the streets up and give us the gold that's on them? Is that why we're going to heaven? If that's not, then why are we going? Because what do we want? I know what I want to hear, and I hope it's what you want to hear when He looks at you and says, well done, my good and faithful servant. Enter in. And when you realize that down here, that you're laying your crowns up to give to Him, you're laying what you do up to give to Him. You're putting your money in the bank of trust of Jesus, because He says, lay up your things in heaven where moth or thief can't steal and moth can't destroy. Rust will not destroy. When it's laid up in the bank of heaven, how do we do that? I've never taken $1 yet and laid it up in heaven's bank. But I know that we have blessings that we can give others. We have what we do for others. Even though you give a cup of water to the least of these in my name, you've done it to me, and it does not go unnoticed. Because that's the love He tells us that we're walking in. The love of Christ is the love that gives. And He gives beyond giving. And we can do that when we realize what we're giving and who we're giving. And that giving is not all monetary. Giving is of yourself. Giving is being there for those that need. Comforting those. How many times did even the leaders of the time talk, give to the widows and the orphans? See that they're taken care of. See that they're loved. See that they know somebody that is Christ in their life. Be able to show them Christ if you never get a chance to tell them. Love an unloved person. Love those who are down on themselves, who feel bad about themselves. Love those who are willing to give up their life because of where they're at in their walk. Be there for them. Walk with them. Care for them. And I question myself quite often when I tell this, because I've lost 2 friends to suicide. And I wonder what could be done. What more could be done that we can help them? And I know sometimes nothing. I know that. But you have to question yourself. How to show them God's love. How to reach into that. How to reach into their hurt. How to reach into their pain. Had a lady at the hospital once get mad because her husband passed. I was there when they went, and she got furious. And she said, I am just mad at God. And she went on, and I let her talk. And she says, my pastor said I can't be mad at God. I can't. I said, what? Let me tell you about my God. My God's big enough to take care of His children. I said, I've had kids get so mad at me that they never wanted to speak to me again. They hated me. They were leaving home. I didn't throw them out. I didn't get mad at them, even though they were. I said, do you think He's going? I said, He's a big enough God to handle you. And I realized at that moment, I wanted to walk in that kind of love. I wanted to reach through, to reach into any of the lives He sent my way and do the best I could to get there. Perfectly? No. Not perfectly. But in Him, yes. There was a long time when I was in ministry that I would not tell mistakes in my life and tell anything about my private life until I realized my private life, those mistakes I've made, is where I'm at in my walk with Christ. And I realized that through that, I'm not the only one that ever went through them. And when we share them together and when we're walking together in it, then we understand the support, the blessings, and the grace we get through God's love. That's why we walk in it. That's why the world don't understand it. That's why they don't know. And the only reason they know is the love that they experience. They don't know the fullness of the love of Christ. They know what the world says is love because they don't know Christ. So how are they going to know we are Christians? We have to show more than just the love the world knows. And we find out what the song said. We're Christians because of that love. We're Christians because of that justice, because of that work. And it tells us who will not enter heaven in here. So who will? The ones that follow God's ordinances, the ones that follow His commandments. Well, I can't follow all 10. Well, let me tell you, He made it easier. He said, love God first and above everything else, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I realized through that, as we love God and we love ourselves, we need to learn to forgive ourselves. And we need to learn that if we follow, that, in essence, so Jesus is just my hero for doing stuff like this. He made it down to where people can understand. Yes, there's 631 laws, and then there's the 10 Commandments, before that. And you're to follow every one of them perfectly. No wonder we needed him. I got up this morning to get up. I already broke the law, and I did it on Sabbath too. There's another law I broke. And I wasn't out of bed yet. It was his love and mercy, compassion, grace that he even showed me in those moments. That changes your life to walk in love. Be prepared for those moments. Be prepared that they're going to come, because he says in this world we will have trials and tribulations. But be of great joy. Why? Because I've overcome the world and I'm living in you. You want victory in Jesus, you grasp that passage there. I'm living in you. I've overcome the world. Yeah, you're going to have trouble. You're going to have trials. It's not all going to be happiness and joy. But it's all going to be happiness and joy on the other side of things, because sometimes you understand why he brought you there. And he brings you through it his way. And he will go with you every step. I've heard also, and I don't agree anymore with this, that he never gives you more than you can handle. I've lived with him long enough to know he gives you more than you can handle, just to show you he'll go with you and walk you through the whole way. Because if we could handle everything on our own, we would have had no need for him to die on the cross. And he wants you to know that he loves you enough to walk through it with you. That is a key element of walking in love, is knowing he loves you enough that he walks with you. And you can share what he's given freely. He loved me freely. There was no charge to it. There was no payment plan. There was no installment or any contract other than the contract he made up on himself, not me. He put the covenant on himself to love us, to go to the cross. He asked nothing of us, but we give our lives and our love to him. And the only thing I think he didn't create us with was the heart. He kept that away from himself so we could give it to him freely. When we walk in that, it's just, and I'm here to tell you as a testifying person, there's a change in your life that you'll understand when his love gets a hold of you. And other people will see it. They won't understand why you give that person over there on the corner a $5 bill. Well, he's just going to go buy drugs, or well, maybe he is. But maybe he's hungry. Is it for me to say what God has in mind? Is it for me to say that my kindness to someone, even if it's not giving money, if it's just a handshake or acknowledging someone? My life as men, I'll be talking to the janitor as well as I was the CEO. These are people that are people in my life. I'm no better, no worse. It's because of God's love. And I want them to see that in me. I want them to know when they talk to me, there was something different. Something I don't understand. Something maybe I'll want as he grows into knowledge. I may be a seed planter. I may be taking care of the gardener, or I may be a harvester. I don't know where I'm at in a person's life. Just as long as he has me in that life. And just as long as I know that wherever he's at in my life, I may be the one that has the seed that's planted, or the nurturing that's needed, or the harvest. I may be that one. And we need to realize also, as we walk in his love, as we walk in that care, that sometimes we are the least of these. We are the ones that need what the least of these need. And who's going to bring our cup of water? I know who's going to bring one cup of water. I know Jesus is going to bring a cup of water, because he is the living water. And we'll thirst not no more, as he told the lady at the well. I know he's going to walk with us. That's the life-changing love that people need to see. It's not the world love that they hear everywhere. And yes, I would love to have a truck. I would love to have this, but I want the love he's got to start it off. And that's what people see. So it's not going, I can't stand here and promise you it's going to be easy. Some of the worst nights I've had in my soul have been wondering what he's doing. Why am I here? This is not supposed to be the way it is. And then, all of a sudden, here it is. And I didn't realize all through that time I was the one changing. So be aware. We barely got through the first part of this today. There were 3 points to this. It's like they taught me in seminary. The best advice I ever got in seminary, and I'll share this with you, was from one of my professors. He come up to me and he said, you know, if you can't preach a 25-minute sermon on one passage, y'all said close the Bible and go home. Because he said, I get so much meat out of one passage. He said, I could go a whole day on it. I don't need all 3 points and 5 subpoints. And I said, I love you, I thank you, and I will do that. Because I don't like writing that many. But as long as I feel the Holy Spirit leading it, we're going to go with what the Holy Spirit wants. And if he tells me, and this scares some people. Now, I used to do this when I wore my coat, like in the winter, and I wore my watch. I'd take my coat and I'd throw it in the back. I'd take my watch off and I'd lay it here. And I said, you know, I know how to scare Baptists to death. And I'd throw my watch out there on the floor. So now we're going to get to it. You'd see everybody going. The reason I'm sharing the joy, the reason I share all this with you is because it's where I am in my walk. You know, I think we need to smile because there's so much going on in the world. But I think we need to understand as we go through these times, our valleys and whatever, that we have a God that shows us the love, and he gives it freely. And that's what I enjoy about taking our CDs out and selling them. When we go play music and we have our CDs there, you know, well, I'd like for you to just give me one. You know, they'll tell you, well, God gives freely. You should give freely. I said, man, music is free, but I had to pay for the CDs. But when I'm up here, I can give everything freely, and I love being in His will. I love being here with you guys, and you know, just if you're asking for something, it's going to increase in your life and your walk. And what it causes you now, like surgery, it may hurt now, but after a while, it's going to be worth every bit of that walk. That's the walk we take in love.